6 p.m. here in Cairo. Time for a look at the news bulletin from Channel 2 and the Egyptian satellite channel. My name is Amal Mukhtar and I have all the pleasure to be accompanied with my colleague Sandra Suleiman.
Thanks, Amal, so much. Thanks, Amal. Here is the news bulletin. We're going to start with the headlines. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi receives his Algerian counterpart Abdelmajid Tebboune at الاتحادية Palace. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli holds a meeting to follow up on the implementation of the first stage of Ras Al Hikma City Development Project. An Israeli airstrike on a house in Jabalaya killed several people and wounds others today morning.
Welcome back. The news in detail. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Sunday his Algerian counterpart Abdelmajid Tebboune at الاتحادية Palace. Earlier, Tebboune arrived at Cairo Airport and received an official reception ceremony. Both presidents are due to hold talks on various issues of mutual concern and means of promoting bilateral relations.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held meeting today to follow up on the implementation of the first stage of the Ras Hikma City Development Project, as well as the determined compensation to the people of the region. Madbouli said that the meeting came within the framework of periodic following up on the first stage of developing Ras Al Hikma and the stance of Shams Al Hikma City, aimed to overcoming any challenges, pointing that there is a great cooperation and coordination with various concerned bodies. Meanwhile, Prime Minister stressed that there is continuous efforts exerted to speed up the handover of the lands of Ras Al Hikma City Development Projects to the Emirates partner to begin the infrastructure work for this important project.
While Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Expatriate Affairs Badr Abdelati have asserted Egypt's condemnation for all unilateral and provocative policies that threaten the security and stability of the region. Abdelati made the remarks during a phone call today with his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi to discuss the latest development of the Israeli attacks on Iran. Abdelati reiterated the necessity of avoiding any escalation of violence and undertaking measures that contribute in achieving calm and not slipping the region into regional war that could lead to dangerous repercussions.
Minister of Foreign Migration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs Badr Abdelati condemned the Israeli military operations and measures in the northern Gaza and denounced the obstacles placed by the Israeli occupation forces that hindered the entry of the humanitarian aid into the Strip. This came during a phone call made by Abdelati with Palestinian Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Mohammed Mustafa. Foreign Minister Abdelati expressed his condemnation of the occupations, undermining of the work of the humanitarian relief organizations and UN agencies, as well as targeting of UN employees and agencies, topping of which is UNRWA. Foreign Minister stressed that Egypt exerts utmost efforts to intensify the access of the humanitarian aid, pointing to the dangerous situation in the West Bank in the light of the Israeli violations. On his part, the Palestinian minister expressed his appreciation to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Egypt's efforts to end the suffering of the Palestinian people and restore their self-determination.
An Israeli airstrike on house in Jabalaya killed several people and wounded others today morning as Israeli forces stepped up their campaign in northern Gaza. The Palestinian medics said that the new strike damaged several houses in Jabalaya, the largest of the Gaza Strip's 8 historic refugee camps, which has been the focus of any Israeli military offensive for more than 3 weeks. Israeli occupation forces said in a statement it has eliminated over 4 40 Hamas members in the Jabalia area in the past 24 hours, as well as dismantling infrastructure and locating large quantities of military equipment. In addition, Israel claimed its forces had eliminated a terrorist cell during a close quarter encounter in central Gaza.
Mossad Chief David Barnea would meet with CIA Director William Burns and the Qatari Prime Minister in Doha today. The meetings aim to reach a deal for a ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza. Washington and Qatar have been key mediators in the long-stalled negotiations. Neither Hamas nor Israel have shown any sign of softening their demands since negotiations sputtered to a halt over the summer.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have warned today that a painful consensus would be needed to secure the release of the hostages held in Gaza, and that military action alone will not achieve the country's war aims. Gallant have added in a speech marking the Hebrew calendar anniversary of the Hamas attack on the 7th of October last year that not all objectives can be achieved through military operations alone. At least 42,924 Palestinians, a majority of them civilians, have since been killed in the Israeli offensive on Gaza.
Injured today when a truck struck a bus stop at major intersection in central Israel. The police said in a statement that currently the circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation. Israel's Megan David Adam ambulance service said it was treating dozens of people at the site, at least 4 of them with serious injuries.
Israel raided southern Beirut after Israel's occupation army issued a fresh evacuation call. Lebanese National News Agency have reported the news, adding that Israel had targeted the southern suburbs of Beirut. The details in the following report.
The Israelis raided southern Beirut after the occupation army issued a fresh evacuation call. The Lebanese National News Agency reported the news, adding that the Israelis had targeted the southern suburbs of Beirut. The Israeli occupation army had earlier urged residents of 2 neighborhoods in the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital to evacuate their homes. The evacuation call included maps showing buildings that would be targeted in Burj al-Barajne and Hadath. Hezbollah warned residents of more than 24 Israeli occupation towns to immediately evacuate, saying they had become legitimate targets because the Israeli occupation troops were stationed there. Hezbollah also issued a similar warning of a few communities in the Israeli-occupied Syrian Golan Heights. Elsewhere, the Israelis on Sunday said that 4 occupation soldiers were killed in southern Lebanon, bringing to 36 the total number of Israeli soldiers killed since the start of ground operations on September 30th. The Israeli occupation army said in a statement that the soldiers fell during combat in southern Lebanon, adding that they were killed on Saturday.
Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said Iranian officials should determine how best to demonstrate Iran's power to Israel after the Israeli attack on Iran 2 nights ago. Khamenei said Iran's power should be demonstrated to Israel, adding that the way to do so should be determined by the officials and that which is in the best interest of the people and the country should take place. Iran on Saturday played down Israel's overnight air attack against Iranian military targets, saying it caused only limited damage, as U.S. President Joe Biden called for a halt to escalation that has raised fears of an all-out conflagration in the Middle East. Scores of Israeli jets completed 3 waves of strikes before dawn against missile factories and other sites near Tehran and in western Iran.
Russia's air defense units have destroyed or intercepted 51 Ukrainian drones overnight. The Russian Defense Ministry said early on Sunday that 18 of the drones were intercepted over the Tambov region, some 450 kilometers southeast of Moscow. It added that another 16 were destroyed over the Belgorod border region and the rest over other regions in Russia's south. Also on Sunday, Korean military administration said that Russia have launched a multi-wave drone attack on Kiev for the second straight night. It added that Russia launched around 10 drones in several waves from different directions and at different heights, but Ukrainian air defense units destroyed all of the weapons on their approach to the city.
Republican Donald Trump appealed to Muslim voters in Michigan as Michelle Obama made an impassioned plea on behalf of Kamala Harris at the Democrats' own rally in the battleground state. Harris and Trump are battling for voters that include an Arab American and Muslim population concerned about Israel's genocide war in Gaza and union workers worried about how electric vehicles would reshape the U.S. auto industry, which is headquartered in Detroit, the state's largest city. Election day is November 5th. However, early voting was underway in Michigan, as it is many states. With some 8.4 million registered voters and 15 electoral college votes of the 270 needed to win, Michigan is one of the 7 competitive U.S. states that will decide the election.
Welcome back. Well, Speaker of the Arab Parliament, Mohammed Ahmed Al-Yamahi, have asserted that the Parliament will maintain its firm and supportive stance towards the Palestinian cause and will continue to support the Palestinian people until they obtain their legitimate rights, topping of which is establishing the independent state with Jerusalem its capital. This came during the first session of the Arab Parliament in its new formation from the first session of the 4th legislative term, headed by the elected Speaker of the Arab Parliament, Al-Yamahi, to discuss latest political, economic, social and cultural development on the Arab scene, especially the repercussions of the ongoing Israeli aggression on Gaza and Lebanon. Al-Yamahi have reiterated the Arab Parliament's demand for immediate ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon.
Welcome back. In a press conference during the IMF annual meetings in Washington, the managing director, Kristalina Georgieva, warned that the world is in a danger of becoming mired in a low-growth, high-debt path that will leave governments with fewer resources to improve opportunities for their people and tackle climate change and other challenges. The meeting was clouded by the looming November 5th U.S. presidential election. The IMF released new economic forecasts showing that the global growth will decline slightly by 2029 to 3.1% from 3.2% this year.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of the news bulletin from Channel 2. My name is Amal Mukhtar, and I have all the pleasure to have with me my dear colleague, Sandra Sulaiman. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Amal. Thanks, everyone.